Today I'm going to show you how to make a double crochet stitch. And this stitch is a little bit taller than our single crochet that we've done before. It's worked slightly differently, so I will show you exactly how that works. Just to compare, this is a row of double crochet that I already did. So this is just the first row, and you can see, if you have a quick look, that the stitches are much taller than a single crochet. And they're a little bit more gappy, so if you pull it apart you can see the gaps between the stitches. That's how double crochets are supposed to look. So these ones here are single crochets. So here I've got 2 rows of single crochet, and you can see that it's much denser. There are fewer gaps between the stitches, and they're much shorter, so they're only this tall. That's the length of my double crochet is almost the same as 2 rows of my single crochet. So that's how it looks. Okay, so let's go ahead and start our double crochet. So as I said in my little example here, I've done 1 row of double crochets already. So here I've got my starting chain at the beginning, and then I've made 10 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this is where my work is at the end. So my hook is in there. So to work the next row, I need to turn my work around, and I'm going to work back into the V's along the top of my work. But before I do that, I need to go up a little bit because I'm right at my work now. So I need to make my turning chain. So I'm going to crochet 2 chains. Some people will tell you to crochet 3. So if you are quite a loose crocheter, then you might need to go to 3, but for me I think that 2 looks a little bit better. I think with 3 my chains tend to look a bit gappy, so I personally prefer to use just 2 with a double crochet. And then my first stitch, if we just have a look on the top there, this here at the bottom of my chain, so this stitch here, that's my first stitch. So if you just pay attention a little bit when you're making your chain, to keep your eye on that first stitch so that you know where it is. So before we put our hook into that stitch, unlike doing a single crochet, we need to put the yarn over the hook, so from the back to the front. And I like to put my finger on it so that it doesn't fall off at this point. And then, just like with a single crochet, with my hook pointing upwards, I'm going to put my hook into that stitch, like that. And then again, with my hook still pointing upwards, I'm going to put the yarn over my hook, and I'm going to pull it through the stitch. So now I'm going to turn my hook down so that I can grab the yarn and pull it through the stitch. And then as I pull it through, I'm going to turn my hook upwards so that that loop doesn't fall off. So now I've got 3 loops on my hook. So I've got the first loop, which was attached to from my previous stitch from my chain. I've got the part where I made a yarn over at the beginning, and then I've got another loop which I just pulled through that stitch. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these loops off my hook in 2s. So I'm going to, with my hook pointing upwards, I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to turn my hook down so that I can grab the yarn, and I'm going to pull it through these 2 first loops. So through those 2 loops, all in one go. And then as I pull them through, I'm going to turn my hook upwards so that that loop doesn't fall off. Now I'm going to do the same again. So I'm going to put the yarn over my hook with the hook facing upwards. I'm going to turn my hook so it faces downwards, and I'm going to pull it through those 2 last loops. And then as I pull it through, I'm going to turn my hook upwards so that the loop doesn't fall off. And that is my double crochet. So basically the parts that you need to know: you yarn over before you put your hook into the stitch. So yarn over, hook into the stitch, grab the yarn and pull it through. So 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and through 2, and yarn over and through 2, and that is my double crochet stitch. I'm just going to go ahead and do a few more so that I can show you the last stitch, because it's important when you're crocheting in rows to not miss the last stitch, or at least to know where the last stitch is. So one thing that you can do, I know that I had 10 stitches to start with, so I'm going to have to make 10 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, this is number 5, and then I've got 5 more. Whoops, just getting a bit caught up there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I want you to have a look, because I've got 1 stitch left now. So that is my last stitch there. This little bobble that sticks out on the side, that's my turning chain from the previous row. So that isn't a stitch, that wasn't a double crochet, that was just my chain that I made to get up to the level of my next row. So here I only have 1 more stitch. So even though if you look at it and you were to look on the top, you might see a V here and think that that is another stitch, but it isn't. It's just my turning chain. What you will see when you work in rows like this is that your turning chains, they can stick out a little bit like this. That's normal, and they will obviously be on alternating rows. So that's the row before, and then on this row my turning chain is here. But this is often why we tell you to count your stitches. So when you are beginning, it's a very good idea to count all of your stitches. And if you find that you are losing stitches, or you're getting a bit lost, or your work starts to get wider or it starts to get smaller, what I would advise you to do is to put a marker in your first stitch and your last stitch, and then when you're doing the next row you will know exactly where the beginning and the end is. Or like I said, count the stitches as you go. So I know that I have 10, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you want to, you can count the V's on the top, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that is the double crochet stitch. In UK terminology, it would be called a treble crochet, just so that you know. But I tend to use the American terminology in my videos and in my patterns as well.